Welcome to The Controversial Truth, where we bring you content on health and medical science that nobody would ever tell you until now. I'm your host, Dr. Victoria Munoz, and today we have a very special episode for you. Stay tuned. Well, Shannon, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
It's kind of nice to be back in the studio. I've been doing a lot of podcasting through my my video conference and then just doing a lot of recordings on my own. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while since I've had somebody here to interview, and it's kind of fun to be back at it.
Good. It's glad to see you back at it again. Yeah. Yes, I'm very grateful that I get to interview with you.
Yeah. Well, I was really interested in your story. And, you've had quite a journey from, I don't know how much you weighed before you started this journey, but you've lost a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. You've had some different dietary focuses along the way. And I'd like you to first introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit about your journey.
Okay. Shannon Richardson, born in Nevada, and live here currently in Arizona. I am 45, have kids. They're all adults now. So I'm currently working towards my bachelor's, going to go ahead and move forward through a master's degree, possibly finish with the LSAT and hopefully become a lawyer. But in the interim, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I kind of grab businesses and kind of start them. So I know it's kind of crazy. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I like to read, listen to audiobooks, self-improvement, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yep. And you hit the gym once in a while too, don't you?
Yes, I do enjoy hitting the gym. Yep. Yeah. I will admit that during most of the story, like I did have a surgery. After the surgery, I was a little apprehensive to kind of get back into the gym a little bit. Uh-huh. It's been very, very slow. Yeah. But I used to, back in the day, I used to say I sold my soul with my first deadlift, because that's my one exercise. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do in the gym when you work out? What kind of
a split? Yeah. So right now I utilize my husband's program. He was he's a personal trainer, kind enough to put together a little bit of a training. It's kind of like right now I think it's an upper body, lower body, and then like a full body day. And then, so it's a 3-day rotation, a day off, and then back on again. So mm-hmm. 3 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. And then but it's training to failure, doing the maximum reps that I can possibly do. I think that he does a variation of high, medium, and low. And then also I pretty much walk like everywhere all the time. Yeah. So even in Arizona, I try my best.
What do you mean by high, medium, and low? What you mean with the weight or with the reps?
With the reps, and then also I do, like, I guess because if you're at low reps, the weight's obviously going to be higher because you want to make sure that you go to failure. I try to get as close to failure as possible. But there's a portion of me that still kind of has a little bit of a mindset of I want to lie to myself and still have a little in the tank. I'm not quite there yet on that, where I'm like, I just want to give it everything. Yeah. Not yet. I'm almost there.
That's painful. You got to be ready for it.
Yeah, because I don't want to not be able to walk or wipe my behind the next day. I'm still kind of like, I still have to work, people. I still have to work.
Yeah, so. Yeah, right. We're just not working out and not doing anything else, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to win a pro show anytime soon, at least.
Maybe someday in the future.
Maybe. It's always been, with this journey came that idea that I wanted to do that at some point. Mm-hmm. I doubt I'd ever go pro, but just to get on that stage that one time to say I've done that, because it's such a difficult task and a mindset journey. I don't know how willing I am to go in the depths of that mindset yet. Yeah. But I would like to get there.
Yeah.
Genuinely at some point. Yeah. So I don't know.
You're juggling a lot. I mean, you're in school full time, you're working, you're building businesses, and then trying to get some fitness in there somewhere, so it's a lot. I know when I was competing, it was a full-time job, just the prep for the show, mm-hmm. And I was in medical school at the time. I did compete since I've been a practicing physician, but people were like, how do you find time to work out? I said, well, I don't have time not to work out, because working out gives me the energy and the focus I need to get through medical school. Mm-hmm. I swear that by the time we were graduating, I was probably in the best condition of anybody just simply because everybody had adrenal fatigue. They were surviving on stimulants and, on, and I wasn't. And I mean, mind you, I remember about, a month before I graduated, I look in the mirror and I had bags under my eyes. I said, the only solution to this is graduating.
That's true. I got to get through it. The only way to do it is to go through.
Yep.
I
and
fully
then
understand.
Then I graduated, I slept, and then I got on with my life. Yeah. So.
To only focus on myself. That would be something great and groovy. I'm actually working on that. So, but I mean, I would really, like, you're an inspiring story to me. And actually that's what started the fire when we met. You were, when we met and you were in med school, I was like, oh, wow, you do this too? Like, oh.
Yeah.
And then to find out later on that you were doing both, you competed at the same time as going to medical school. I'm like, well, golly, that takes so much dedication and so much discipline and so much being on it and so much love for yourself. And at the time, I was nowhere near that at all. Like I, definitely a people pleaser, definitely somebody who was all about her family and her kids and didn't care about myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I met you, I was pretty in the dumps. I was pretty in the depths of that whole negativity and feeling bad about myself all the time. And
yeah,
I couldn't, looking back on it now, I'm like, I know I had to have that happen in order to be where I am now. But I look back on that and go, gosh, I can't, the shade of that human being, I'm like, I can't believe I was ever there.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary sometimes because, you're like, gosh, I didn't know that was possible. And I didn't know it was possible to get this good from that.
Yeah. So and very few people make that change in life. It's so profound, the change you've made, very few people change at all.
That's true.
And that's what my whole premise as a physician is, helping people see their potential, and giving them the confidence to move forward with their health and their self-confidence as well.
You did that in spades. You did that in spades for me. I'm like always trying to evolve and change and move, grow, move through things. It's an incredible journey. It's incredible so far.
So let's talk about where you started. I don't remember how much you weighed when I met you, which was very serendipitous because I just walked into that treatment room and you were there and we started talking. And then from there, we just somehow stayed connected.
Yep.
It wasn't something that we tried hard to do. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, naturally, just serendipitously kind of fell into it, and it just flowed, which is interesting. So I, in that room, I think I was probably not my heaviest, but I was about 325.
Okay. Yeah.
At the time.
And what is your height?
5'4".
Okay.
5'4". So I was a portly little child and actually a portly little adult. But I was always heavy, like throughout my entire life. Most of the women on my dad's side of the family are heavy and pear-shaped and that kind of set. And then as they got older, they either would gain it, lose it. My mom was pear-shaped for a while there. And she was always so concerned that I would end up heavy my whole life. So diets ahoy since probably 10. I think I remember some of my earliest fond memories with my mother were going to a doctor's office to be prescribed fen-phen. And, my mom.
Back in the day, the fen-phen.
Yep. And you're prescribed it by some very, and I'm going to be really rude about it, some fat old man doctor that was like, I can't take it because I have a heart condition. And I'm like, so you're prescribing it to me and I'm a minor. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
But my mom, it was funny. I guess I likened it to being a drug addict. And she taught me, there's a blue pill, one to go up, one to go down. The blue pill is to go up. The orange pill was to go down. And I liked the up pill so much, never took the down pill. It turned out later that it was to my best interest because I guess the orange pill to go down, as we called it when I was a kid, was the pill that caused the most heart damage. And so I dodged a very serious bullet with that one. I was so grateful, but then I decided not to pursue that anymore. I just didn't, you feel up all the time. I felt like I was on methamphetamine, like just up and high all the time,
Which essentially you were
and
just
did
prescribed.
it through high school. Barely met graduation needs with that. I was so high all the time and grumpy, and still like lost 20 pounds, and then I was on it, and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
exercising all the time. I would
Uh-huh.
start in the morning. I would get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I would go and I would do my hour of cardio. Then I'd go throughout half the day, and I'd go to the gym during lunch at school, and I'd spend most of my time there. And I would just like cardio, cardio, cardio. And then in the evening, I'd go to the gym with my mom. So I would spend 2, sometimes 3 hours, depending on what her workout looked like, just putzing around on all the machines and really trying to hit those weights hard, and as many as I could, as many reps as I could,
Mm-hmm.
until I felt fatigued. Nothing ever really worked throughout my whole entire life. And I tried all sorts of things. Like originally I tried, just a general healthy American diet, tried to eat balanced, tried to calorie count, tried to outwork in the gym a bad diet, because as we all know now, being on the standard American diet sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't figure it out, could never lose weight. um, just always had very large hips, large thighs, large buttocks, just, and then a tiny, tiny little top. Like I used to joke around and say, people in cars and stuff, like they would see my face and they would see like this much of me, and they would like flirt with me and things. And then I get out of the car and they'd see a big old 300-pound person getting out of the car, and they're, oh, I don't want that. But I could flirt and get away with it because everything on top seemed very normal and average.
Mm-hmm.
So I always knew there was something wrong, could never figure it out. And after that, I was 30 and came across the vegan diet. I was looking online and I was just like, there's got to be something. Came across veganism by chance, happenstance. Came across a couple of YouTubers. Sugar's not the enemy, sugar's awesome. Like you should just delve into the sugar, and you could drink sugar water. And I wasn't okay with that. I was kind of more on the fruit thing for a while. So
Mm-hmm.
I was a fruitarian, or fruitivore, I guess they called it. And I was that way for probably a year. Read about mono-mealing and about how I would just pick a specific food and just eat, and that just caused more dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And then started to go into like a raw till 4. So I was eating raw until 4 p.m. And then I'd have like a stack of just baked potatoes, nothing on it, like
Uh-huh.
maybe a little bit of salt or some salsa or veggies or something. I would bake plates and full like trays of veggies and just cook them in the oven, and then I'd just eat them on top of that. We wouldn't have butter or anything, no butter, no oil. But that became just one of those things. And I lost like maybe 20 or 30 pounds on it, kind of stagnated. My eyes felt better, though. I did feel okay. My digestion never really hurt
Mm-hmm.
too much in the beginning. And then it just kind of plateaued. That was it. I just was like, okay, well, I'm vegan. And then I decided, well, originally it was to lose weight. And then I kind of liked the idea behind being vegan for the animals. Didn't want to harm animals. I had animals, like it made sense. But I always kind of felt like I was phoning it in, like it was never really, really fully there for me. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really liked recipes and I wanted to make something of it, and it just fizzled because it was just not something for me that was sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And on my 39th birthday, I woke up frustrated, angry, upset that here I am. I'm going to be 40 in this next year, and I'm going to be this fat mom, and I'm going to die early. And what do I really? I was a stay-at-home mom all my life, and I don't want my kids to see that. I want my grandkids to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to, on my 39th birthday, I looked at my husband and I said, we're going to work hard, and I think that I'm going to have the bariatric surgery because
Uh-huh.
nothing else seemed to work. Doctors upon doctors, well, you just need to move more, eat less. And I'm like, do you see my Fitness Pal? Like, let me show you my Fitness Pal. Let me show you all of my diet logs and all of my workout logs, which, by the way, were 5-6 years running.
Mm-hmm.
That I was really serious in the gym, with the logs, with the food logs, everything. And prior to that, we had actually gone to a fitness location where we just delved into this one person and said, hey, make us a meal plan, make me a meal plan. And I took that person's advice, and that first week I literally gained 10 pounds. The first week of just eating the way that person said to.
Yeah.
And I was like, something's wrong. Like, how is it that I could possibly gain 10 pounds in, I didn't understand inflammation at the time either. But like my body was reacting in such a weird way. Like I immediately stopped and told this person, hey, this is what's happening. And they're like, well, you're overeating. And I'm like, I am following your plan to a T. Like I am measuring and weighing food. Like
Right.
it's disjointed in my mind, but at the same time, like, hey, I understand. Maybe I didn't have a modicum of understanding of how much, a deck of cards is really not that big when it comes to meats or things
Right.
like that when they talk about those things. And well, the only thing I ever got accused of was cheating. You're cheating, you're doing this, you're falsifying your records. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I walked into the doctor's office to get the surgery. And it turns out that I didn't need to lose any weight. I didn't need to gain any weight. If I lost weight, great. If I gained weight, they weren't happy about it, but they would be like, maybe you're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through all of the things necessary to complete that. You had a bunch of things that you had to get medical clearance for. You had the EDG. You had to make sure everything was okay digestively. You had to make sure that, you had a sleep study. Did you have sleep apnea? Because I didn't really have any comorbidities. Like I didn't have diabetes. I didn't think that I had sleep apnea, but after a study, they're like, yeah, you kind of wake up, you kind of snore a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
a little. So that might be a thing. But I didn't have high cholesterol. I didn't have anything, low blood sugar. Like I didn't have any of those problems.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of struggling to see, other than my weight, which my BMI at the time was 48. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point in time, I was 345 pounds.
Uh-huh. Was that your heaviest?
That was my heaviest.
Uh-huh.
And that probably was the moment of clarity that I was like, this is where I need to be. Like, absolutely, I know I'm on the right path now.
And you were 345 pounds on a vegan diet, exercising.
Yep.
And then following.
I was 7 days a week exercising every day without fail.
Like, was this person that was creating your diet plan, were they a personal trainer, or what kind of qualifications did they have?
So they were getting their RD, but they were a personal trainer and they were certified to do meal plans, like a certified nutritionist.
Oh, RD. Gary Fettke, he's an orthopedic surgeon. I think he's in South Africa. Anyway, he says, if you live by the food pyramid, you'll die by the food pyramid. And you'll look like the food pyramid.
And I look like the food pyramid, 100%. I was a triangle. And I went in for surgery on December 19th of 2019, right before my 40th birthday. And I went in and the surgery was a great success, in and out. I didn't do well on the anesthesia though, but the moment I was clear enough on the anesthesia, they were like, hey, you got to get up, you got to sip water, and you got to get up and you got to walk around. And I got up all the time. I was not sitting. I was like, I feel like this is my birthday. This is the moment I changed my life. Like I have a choice and I'm going to grab it with both hands and I'm going to just take it. And so every hour on the hour, every 40 minutes, I was up and moving around. I got to the point where they had to tell me to slow down. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like you told me to get up and walk. And the only way to get rid of the gas, the only way to get, walk. Okay, walking. I'm walking. And then I was like, it was 8 hours after surgery. And I'm like, can I go home? They're like, no, we need to keep you overnight. I'm like, no, I want to go home. Like I want to go home. I'm up, I'm moving around. I don't feel bad. You have to have the bowel movement, all that stuff before you leave. I'm like, I've already had that, got that. We're good. Let me go home. And they're like, no, we have to keep you at least one day. I'm like, why? And they're like, insurance. And I went, okay.
Because they get paid if you're there.
Yeah, they
don't care if you're ready to go home or not.
No, we just need to keep you overnight for observation's sake. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Got home, and I never looked back. Like, I tested some foods along the way, and I was still vegan through that. And the doctor at the pre-ops was like, well, you're losing weight, but you're not losing as much as you should. And I was losing about 2 pounds a week.
At pre-op? Or
post-op, excuse me. A post-op. So post-op, in those post-op appointments, I was losing about 2 pounds a week. Like I didn't even want to look at the scale. I was like, I'm just going to move forward and do my thing, eat and drink the way they told me to. And I couldn't get enough water. And, I ended up losing a good 100 pounds out of the deal. I actually have, a tattoo. I actually put a tattoo on my body, and it's the Hebrew tens, and there's 10 tens for the 100 pounds that I had lost in that year. And then I decided I'd lose as much weight as I could that first year. That second year, work on keeping it all off, and that third year, go in for surgery. Because if you can keep it off for a year, once you're at a weight and then you stabilize, because within that first year they say lose as much weight as you can, and then that's all you're gonna
Before the
lose.
bariatric surgery or after?
After.
Okay, before you had the second surgery,
Yeah,
right? The skin
the
repair.
skin
Yeah.
removal. Yeah. So, and in that period of time, in that first year, I ended up having uh, they removed my gallbladder.
Oh.
They had to remove my gallbladder. It threw a fit. It was not happy. I started to eat a little bit more high fat, and my body was enjoying it, but my gallbladder was like, no, it was inflamed and on fire. They're like, yeah, let's just take it out. I'm like, okay, fine. I didn't know any better.
Right.
So they took it out and they're like, yeah, you'll never be able to eat high fat again. Otherwise, you're going to get all sorts of bouts of issues and gastric stress. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can deal with that. I'm still vegan. And then I went to Tijuana to have skin surgery that next year afterwards. Saved up, worked 4 jobs to do it. Everything fell apart. Did everything poorly. To get there, I did everything poorly. I messed up everything in my whole life, and my relationship was on a hinge. My kids were not happy with me. My everybody I worked with was not happy with me, but I went down there and I went by myself to Tijuana and had skin surgery. And when I vetted these people, they were recommended by a friend of mine who I collaborated with once upon a time. She's actually my hair whisperer and my hairdresser.
I was going to say, what's a hair whisperer?
my hairdresser. She's my colorist, and she had great results from the things that she had done. I mean, I'm standing there looking at her.
At the same clinic?
Yep, at the same clinic. And I was like, wow. So she recommended them. We found the right doctor. I took about 6 months to a year to vet this doctor really well. And then went ahead with the surgery. And when I showed up at the door, the guy looked at me and he's like, well, I've never done anybody as big as you. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I mean, because everything was just sagging off of me. I felt like a melted candle. It wasn't just skin, though. There was still some stubborn fat in the abdomen area, in the hip area, around the top of the buttocks. Like there were just areas that I was like, I'm just so unhappy with. Well, they ended up doing a fleur-de-lis stomach and an all-around tummy tuck. Along with that, they ended up doing an outer thigh lift, which I had never heard of.
No,
and from what I understand, it's pretty darn dangerous. And I didn't give consent for that. I didn't know. I just gave consent for a thigh lift. And they said, nope, that's not possible. With the amount of money that you've paid and the size that you are, like, we didn't know. I'm like, I've sent pictures and I've sent measurements, like what you did not know, like whatever. Well, it wouldn't be able to be done. You lose too much body, what is it? You lose too much blood. So then I finally, I got out of surgery, and I was asleep for the longest time. I think I was asleep for almost 6 or 8 hours after surgery. I finally woke up. They were like, we were just about to call your next of kin because we thought you weren't going to wake up. And I was blue, like my lips were blue. My skin was gray. It was just not a great, I was weak, very, very tired. And they were like, you lost a lot of blood. Like, that was a very heavy duty skin surgery. Meanwhile, I'm like, I feel great. Like I felt great. I felt weak, but I felt great. And I was still so groggy. They took me back to the hotel.
Probably high from the blood loss.
Probably. I was probably just, I was like, okay, I woke up, so I know I can move forward with this. I know I can heal. And in Tijuana, they moved me to it's not the surgery center, but it's like a recovery house. In Tijuana, and nobody wanted to touch me. No doctors really wanted to come by. Like they knew they screwed up somehow. They did something. I don't know what they did. But looking down at myself finally in a faja and tightened and looked, and I was like, it's all gone. It's all gone. And I was very, very pleased and walked a lot. They were like, no, we don't want you to walk a lot. We want you to stay put and slowly do things. And I'm like, are you kidding? And the day I was able to get up and move around, I'm like, I want to scale. I want to scale because I was at that time, I was about, I had lost more weight. So I was about 194, 195 the day before the actual surgery. And then because I want to know how much skin I lost.
Right.
And I was down to 170.
Okay. So a good 20
something pounds.
20 something pounds.
Yeah. 20. And I was pretty amazed that they got rid of that. I have pictures and they're very grotesque and very amazing all at the same time. I'm like, that came off of me. So after that, I got home, they didn't they left me with the drain in, and they're like, "Hey, you can take the drains out." But I ended up swelling so bad from the plane ride back
Oh, yeah.
that I ended up in the hospital because I split my sutures in the back.
Uh-oh.
And
What sutures, what part of your back or what?
so my mid back, right above what we would call my butt crack,
Uh-huh.
and so in the small of my back, where they all the way around, I swelled so badly in the back portion on the back end that it split open and created a hole
So there were sutures up the center of your lower back.
around the back. So these sutures, so they sutured. I guess they did something back there where somehow or other there was skin. So they
Uh-huh.
they cut all the way around me circumferentially, and then in the back area, the sutures on my back split,
Oh.
and so it created this hole,
Oh boy.
and the hole kept splitting because all I was doing was swelling.
So what was coming through, adipose, or what
Um,
could you see anything, muscle?
Skin, fat, it was all the way down to the muscle layer,
Uh-huh.
and it was just because the skin and everything was so swollen and full of liquid.
Yeah.
And so at some point I had to go to the hospital. The hospital didn't want to touch me, of course, because you got it done in Tijuana, but my insurance was gracious enough to cover it,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going to sew it all back together, which I really would have rather preferred, but the swelling was so bad they couldn't do that, so
Oh,
they
okay.
just wound vacked me,
Uh-huh.
which, talking to a second opinion about that, they were like, I don't know why, because it would smell. It was awful.
Mm.
Like I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. And I'm like, weeks of this. And after about 6 weeks, I was like, I need a second opinion. Went to an actual wound doctor, and they're like, why do they have a wound vac on you? Here, rub this on there. And in a week and a half, it was gone.
Wow.
Healed, 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 healed. He's like, but when he did talk to me about that, he was like, okay, here's the caveat: protein. I know you're vegan, protein.
Mm-hmm.
And by then I had developed a tofu allergy because you just eat so much of it.
Good.
And I'm glad that it happened. And so they're like, you have to fish something. You have to eat protein. Protein is the building blocks. It's going to help heal.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, it'll heal. He goes, it'll heal twice as fast if you do it.
Yeah.
I went, okay, fine. Threw that away and went, I'm not going to lose my life over this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose. I'm already slightly disfigured. I have the scars. It's not pleasant. It's not fun to look at.
Mm-hmm.
It still does give me pain. You know, I have good scarring from where everything else healed just fine,
Yeah.
but it's like very minimal, and that one spot is just like this blight. And but I started eating a little bit more protein. I kind of started with fish,
Mm-hmm.
and fish agreed with me, and I was fine with that, but I was
Mm-hmm.
still eating rice and potatoes and things like that. So slowly over time, after the skin surgery, I was good for a long time, wearing the faja, doing the right things, but I found myself slowly gaining a little bit of weight, just a little bit, pound here, pound there, pound here, pound there. And I found out I gained about 10 pounds, and then I was fine. So for that next year, just eating a regular diet again, I was all right. And
What do you mean by regular?
just a regular, like
Just a standard diet?
kind of went back to a standard cleaner diet. So I was eating some meat, a little bit more vegetables, not as much starch,
Mm-hmm.
but I still was incorporating that. So still a lot of rice and potatoes, more so.
Uh-huh.
Pastas I really couldn't eat anymore. Breads still couldn't really eat. I still tried to, though, because it's an addiction now, but couldn't figure it out either, because I'm like, I really don't like the taste of bread, but why am I wanting it all the time?
Right.
So even though I knew I couldn't digest it, then we kind of fast forward to about the beginning of this year, and I started to really kind of not like the way I looked. I started to kind of gain more weight in my thighs again, anywhere that I didn't have the surgery, and I started to kind of gain a little bit of weight back. And I'm like, I haven't really changed anything. I mean, I'm not working out a lot, but it's not like I have a trashy diet.
Right.
And then I can't remember when we started to talk about it. I think it was sometime, was it this year? I think it was sometime this year that we started talking about the carnivore diet.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, give this a try. And I was like, well, I don't know. And you're like, give it a try. And I said, all right. And went in wholeheartedly. And then I think there was a week or two in there where I kind of fell off of it. It was hard to get back on it. It's weird. Once you get off of it that first time, you're like, ugh, I like the carbs too much. I like them too much. Can't I have carbs? Can't I?
Well, carbohydrates in every form are addictive.
Yep.
People don't realize that. They think, oh, it's just like sugar, like cakes and cookies and candies. That's not actually the case. When it comes in complex form too, it's very addictive.
Yep.
And we were not meant to eat carbohydrates.
And I'm coming to find that to be the fact.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what everybody else does. I know what I do, and I can only hold myself accountable. But I know when I'm not on point, or I know when a carb enters into the diet. I had gotten it knocked down to about 10 carbs. And since we last talked, I actually have it down to 5, where it's like I allow for 5 just in case something comes in. But overall, it's pretty much eggs. I have a little bit of bacon. I have that steak. I have that hamburger. And I've always wanted to like keep it on hand. And I'm not always, right now with everything going on in my life, it's hard to keep everything on hand. So I am struggling to get enough
the
calories
carnivore
in.
foods, you mean?
Yeah, the carnivore foods. I'm struggling to get a lot of that in right now, just with everything in the daily life. And so I went and started talking to like people to try and get them to like just like I started talking to people who do food, like, meal prep companies. They don't provide this. They don't, like, you can buy an a la carte for like $20 a box for a pound of meat. And I'm like, well, I could make it for 20 pounds. I could go for a week. And so I just kept struggling to get the food in. And I kept trying to find the right person. I found this great catering company that wanted to do it. But they're too expensive. And anybody else that I've truly been hiring on to take that over so that I could put my brain to other things, they don't listen. They don't listen. They don't understand. They think it's funny how people project and put their beliefs and things on other people. I'm like, but I'm paying you for service. Like, I'll pay you $20, $25 an hour to come into my own home, cook the food that I tell you to make, just do it the way I tell you to.
Right.
I just don't have the time to do the labor. And they're still, oh, well, we'll just incorporate a little bit of this or a little bit of that. I'm like, do you not understand? Like, it's like almost like how a bodybuilder preps. Like with this, though, you can actually hurt me. You can harm me. It's not like you're going to ruin my peak or something. You're going to physically possibly put me in the hospital with an allergy, with something that's going on, or you're going to lay me low for the next week.
Well, a lot of these food prep companies, you're stuck with the combinations that they create.
Yes.
And when I looked into food prep options, that's what I was up against. It's like, I'm not going to eat 3/4 of the stuff you put in this meal.
It's wasted.
Yeah.
So you're not only are you wasting the food, but then you're wasting money.
Right.
You've wasted their time because they still had to have that time to put together those meals, whether they're manufactured or not. And not to mention, they're put in plastic containers. Like, have we not learned? No, we're always so concerned about the environment, but when it comes to just wanting something quick and convenient, you're willing to throw everything out the door, the baby out with bathwater. And I'm like, that's just ridiculous. Where, can't you just put it in paper? It's a little bit more unattractive in the packaging. I can't see the food. I have to open the package.
Right.
But I'd rather that than microwave a plastic container and get all of those wonderful chemicals and microplastics put into my body. Like, we already have them. So I guess people are like, well, you already have them. So, well, I'm like, it doesn't mean I still have to continue to do that. Like, Lord only knows what we're poisoning ourselves with.
And if people don't see it and feel it immediately, they don't think about it. That's the problem. And, that's what we're up against.
Yep. It drives me crazy. And so doing that, necessity is the mother of invention. So I've started putting together my own. I started and went, you know what, there's a gap. There's clearly a gap. There have got to be successful people that don't have time to make these foods. And I mean, as easy as they are, I mean, you can YouTube everything and, seeing those recipes, they're so easy, but it doesn't mean anything if you still have to invest the time and you just don't have the time. So to me, now trying to start that myself, where I want to create that, where we're, I can prep something and give it to you and deliver it. Why not? Then I'm already prepping for myself. Why not prep for other people and get paid to do it?
Right.
So that's my next venture, is really trying to figure that out and what that looks like and get that started and off the ground quickly. And I'm trying to move as fast as I can, because Lord knows if there's anything I need to do is move quickly and get that started. And maybe it holds a market, maybe it doesn't, but I'm just gonna mess around and find out and see what happens.
Right. I think personalized meals are going to be a game changer for meal prep. It's like having your own personal chef.
Exactly.
I prefer that over a meal prep company.
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had personal chefs, and they make everything to my specifications.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly what I intend on doing, because, if you have people that, come in and they think that they know everything, or they think that they know better, you're like, hey, I need you to cook with tallow, or I
Hmm.
need you to cook with ghee,
Right.
or I need you to cook with just plain old butter. Like, even when you're going out to eat,
Hmm.
can I have to call ahead and go, I intend on coming to your restaurant. Do you have real butter?
Hmm.
Not oil butter mix,
Right.
not shortening. Do you have real butter? Do you cook in tallow? And people are like, well, yeah, yeah, we have it. I get there and I'm like, I need the butter,
Hmm.
the real butter. And then I'll go and I'll eat it. I'll have one bite and I'll be like, that has oil in it. And
Hmm.
I'm so amazed at how my palate has changed to be able to show that.
Yep.
But I pay the price. Like, that's why I know it sounds crazy and still a little disjointed, but if I go out to eat, like, I try to eat everything I can ahead of time. I really try not to. There are some opportune moments where my husband and I can go and eat, and we have a safe place that we can go because they actually will use butter for
Hmm.
us.
And they
But
probably know you by now,
yeah,
so
they
they
do. They
go,
know us
okay.
because we frequent that haunt.
Yeah.
We haunt that, or even the bacon grease. Like, hey, dude, just sling some of that bacon grease that you
Yeah.
use the bacon on. Just use that. I'm
Oh,
cool.
yeah, that's the best.
That's great stuff. It doesn't bother me any.
I
And
even butter my bacon.
oh, I don't think to do that, but I should.
I put butter in the pan, then I put the bacon in it. Tastes pretty
Pretty
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I have not done that. I haven't gotten that far into the fat realm yet. I'm still a little. I've been programmed for too long about fat. Fat. The fat you eat is the fat you wear, and I'm like, I want to change my opinion about that because I just love butter.
Well, we know physiologically that's not the way the human body works,
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked about it. And it's funny, while you know what you know, at the same time, from whatever you're ingrained in your behaviors, can
Hmm.
still overpower what you know. It's so weird.
It's a lot of reprogramming with people, changing them, even just from a standard American diet, not necessarily processed foods, but like the idea that we have to eat a balanced diet. Well, no, a balanced diet is BS. We don't need a balanced diet. We need a human species appropriate diet, which is carnivore.
Mhm.
You know, over the evolutionary time of humans, we didn't eat carbohydrates except for maybe a very short window of 2 weeks going into a winter. We'd load up on berries because they'd fatten us up.
Mhm.
So fructose is amazing at fattening you up. I have patients that go carnivore and they say, well, what about fruit once in a while? Well, if you want to put fat on, go ahead and indulge in the fruit. It's a challenge. I mean, especially working with people of various types, you're going to get people that just jump all right in and say, yep, I have no desire to go back to eating plants. And then others will say, after the first 90 days, when we're getting their metabolism, reset and healed up, they'll say, well, I'd like to talk about incorporating some plant foods back in my diet. We have to be very specific.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. Either you're going to do a food sensitivity panel, we're going to see what foods you do and don't react to that are plant based. And just because you don't react to them doesn't mean that you should be consuming them. Like, for example, on this panel, there's like cane sugar.
Mhm.
Well, I don't recommend eating that whether you're allergic to it or not, or whether you have a sensitivity to it or not. So there's certain things, grains and starchy vegetables, absolutely not.
Mhm.
But I do have patients that will eat those things once in a while, even after they go carnivore. And I have to work with the variations that I deal with in terms of patience and personality, because people are going to do what they're going to do.
Yes.
They're going to have alcohol once in a while. They're going to eat starchy. They're going to have a dessert once in a while. And so I have to understand that, and I have to work with them on that level, and I have to say, okay, I want 90% of your diet to be carnivore. And if you want to have something off the carnivore eating plan once a week, maybe, and be very, very careful, because, once you are in that, and it's a misconception we're always in ketosis. We're not.
Mhm.
We do kind of move in and out of ketosis even on a carnivore diet, because we have a process by the liver called gluconeogenesis, which is releasing glucose into the system as needed for the life of certain cells. Um, and Also, protein does cause a little insulin spike, which we need for our kidneys to be able to retain electrolytes.
Mhm.
So that is a requirement. It's a physiologically indicated mechanism, and it's something that we have always experienced through the beginning. But we don't want our patients to be consuming any more than 20 grams of carbs a day. That's a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, in my opinion. 10 would be better if they're going to eat any plant foods, but we have to either do the food sensitivity testing to see if they can tolerate the food, or we have to do the food reintroduction, which is you take one food, not dairy, but like this one cheese, let's say, or this one plant food, this one vegetable, and you eat it for 3 days, and you have to document any kind of symptoms that you have, like swelling, brain fog, muscle aches, joint pain, stuff like that, because people don't realize that what they're labeling as normal aging is not normal. It's a disease state. It's normal for us because the whole world is addicted to carbohydrates.
And that's true.
And carbohydrates are the basis of the majority of the world's diet, from rice, potatoes to even, vegetables and fruits. And so what we see as aging and we think it's normal, it's not. And so what people experience when they go carnivore is they see a reversal of these symptoms. And they also, I could speak for myself. My hair quit graying, and now I just have some highlights put in my hair, but the roots are not touched up. I hardly have any gray hair anymore. Whereas my hairstylist even mentioned this. She says, "You used to have like gray in your temples and stuff," and she said it's all gone now. And something that I would have taken a before and after picture if I knew this was going to happen. My bottom teeth were crowded on this side, and now they're completely straight.
Oh, nice.
I don't have an explanation for it except that maybe my jaw grew a little bit since I've been carnivore just to accommodate the crowding in my teeth. I have no idea, but I just woke up one day and said, you know what? I don't have to pick behind those teeth anymore. And they're completely straight.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, interesting things. Some people experience a reversal in their, an improvement in eyesight. So a reversal in the prescription. And skin improvement. Like if you had been on the carnivore diet going into weight loss, it's very likely you wouldn't have needed the skin surgery, because what many people going into the carnivore diet, not only to improve their health, but for major weight loss, their skin will start to become more elastic as a result of all the collagen in the meat, they're consuming in the free fatty acids from the fats they're eating. So this is something that people are experiencing, an improvement in their skin, hair, nails, and then just overall improvement in sleep, energy, mood. Mood is a huge one.
Mood is a big one.
Because I get patients coming in that are depressed, and they go carnivore, and within 90 days they say, I don't have any more depression. I don't have any more anxiety. And sometimes it's hard to convince people that just the diet alone can do that. There's a doctor. Her name is Georgia Eady. I don't remember if she's a PhD. Or an MD. I think she's an MD. Actually, she's an MD. And she wrote a book called Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind.
Okay.
And she's using the carnivore diet, at least the ketogenic diet, to improve people's mental health. And she's able to treat schizophrenia, bipolar, all these different conditions that we thought were
hereditary.
Like some hereditary, or we just write it off as there's nothing we can do about it. Here, take this pill. And the pills cause a slew of side effects.
And other things.
And don't work. I did psych in medicine as a registered nurse for 13 years. That was just part of my career as a nurse. And it was just a revolving door. These people were on medications, but never was their diet addressed, never was anything addressed except putting them on pills and waiting till that they cleared enough, they were dischargeable. But then they would be right back in the hospital within weeks. And worse. And they'd be gaining weight, they'd be more metabolically sick on more and more medications, like for thyroid, hormone replacement. And it was just people getting sicker and sicker. That's all I experienced. I didn't see anybody improving their health ever.
Yeah.
Those 13 years on that unit that I worked.
Yeah, it's not healthcare, it's sick care.
Uh-huh.
And I hate it.
And which, I was not going into nursing to be a nurse. I was going to nursing to learn to kind of get my hands in medicine before I went on to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gone to MD medical school if I hadn't done that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's life changer.
A life changer. Yeah. So this is my experience. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've been in conventional medicine, and multiple different specialties. And then I've been obviously in the naturopathic realm,
mm-hmm.
which a lot of people don't realize your naturopathic medical doctor, by the way, is more educated than your MD medical doctor.
Yeah, you need more. You need more in depth and other facets and other systems to look
mm-hmm.
at to go. And it's holistic care. It's not just sick care and you're a specialist in one thing. You holistically look at the whole person.
It's easy to use an algorithm for symptoms and write a prescription. Yeah. That's easy. Oh, yeah. I could do that with my eyes closed. It takes a much more diligent and experienced doctor to be able to move you out of a state of sickness into a state of health. It requires a lot more.
I thoroughly agree.
And analytical ability, you're a problem solver, and you're an investigator. Mm-hmm. I do all those things with my patients.
Yes.
But the carnivore diet has been a game changer for every single one of my patients.
Yes.
Probably about 65% of my patients are carnivore. The rest of them are keto. And then I have a couple that eat a standard diet that's clean, but it's not ketogenic, or, it's more plant-based. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, you're basically metabolically healthy, or at least your numbers are showing that now, but we need to monitor this because at some point you're going to start showing symptoms of disease. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable. It may take 20 years. It may take 30. It may take 10. It may take 5. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But as long as somebody is consuming carbohydrates on a daily basis, this is what we can expect. Now, a lot of them are athletes, so that helps because mm-hmm. they're utilizing burning, for lack of a better word to use. We don't really burn anything, and we don't. Calories are a construct. It's not something that we can really measure anything by with the human body, mm-hmm. because we're an open vessel. We're not a closed vessel, so you can't really measure calories. What we look at is macros, right? Mm-hmm. So the animal products, the meat and the saturated fat, are really what's indicated for us genetically. When we start incorporating plant foods, carbohydrate type foods into the diet, that's when we start seeing evidence of disease in everybody. Nobody is immune from that. It's going to happen to everybody at some point, at some rate, mm-hmm. in their lifetime.
Yeah.
If you think about how we were meant to live on average 120 years, well, let me say a minimum, because some sources say 150, some say more, and nobody knows anybody that's lived 120 years. I don't, and I have relatives that live close to 100, mm-hmm. and we thought that was amazing. Not really.
No,
because
not really.
They still cut their life short.
Yep.
20 to 50 years probably. Mm-hmm. So my goal as a doctor, in working with people that are really on board with improving their health and fixing their metabolism, is to extend their life, not just the length of their life, but the quality of their life.
Quality, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the part that is different from some of the reports that we get where, medical science, we're extending life, and no, you're not improving anything. A lot of these people have had open heart surgery, and they're on a slew of medications. Your new and improved medical technology is keeping people alive, but they're still sick. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had I get a lot of inquiries for my practice, like people wanting me to help them. And people will say, well, I have this condition, and I was wondering if you can give me like some kind of a weight loss medication, or some IV therapy or something like that. I said, well, why don't you come in? We'll fix the problem. Why do you want to continue to be diabetic, or why do you want to continue to have lupus? Why don't we fix the problem? And they're like,
wait, we can fix that?
We can fix it?
We can fix that? and yeah, yes. Because all the regular doctors are like, well, what can I do? My hands are tied, and you're like, there's got to be an answer. Like,
Right.
we're all human beings, and it's a practice. I get it, not a perfect. You all are in practice, and so let's mess around and find out. Let's figure it out. Like, can we come at it in another avenue, or
Mm-hmm.
But they're so conditioned. Those doctors are just so conditioned with minimal nutritional training to sit there and just go,
None.
well, when people walk in, like, someone, for example, like my daughter, she doesn't really want her weight taken. She knows she's heavy. She knows she's fat, or heavy, overweight. And she knows that she'll walk in there and the doctor's going to see that and be like, oh, well, just, move more and eat less. And she's like, I can't eat less than I'm eating now. I'm down to 900 calories. What do you want me to do? Well,
Yeah.
then you're obviously lying, and so there's just such a mistrust there. It's funny. We want to mistrust certain things, but then we want to go ahead and believe them on certain things. So, well, where, lupus, for example, or something like that, where you were saying lupus, well, I didn't know we could fix that. Meanwhile, that
Mm-hmm.
person might be 250, 300 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
while I'm still skeptical of my doctor who says in the same breath, what can we do? It must be, hereditary for your lupus. Oh, but you need to eat less and move more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this weird
Conundrum.
relationship that we
Yeah.
have, and it's odd. And I would prefer just to have a doctor give it to me straight and be honest with me and say, look, really genuinely, I don't know, we'll find out, or hey, I've got the keys, we can totally do that. And you were talking about the carnivore diet and about the different things about like inflammation and stuff. And anytime I either accidentally or intentionally want to try and incorporate something in my diet,
Mm-hmm.
I get bit hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and it's weird because, it's like a drug, it's food, and I'll feel it the next day, if not immediately. It's very interesting. Like, I'll sit down to eat a meal, and whether it's got something in there intended or not, I might stand up after that meal half an hour later, standing up after waiting for a minute or leaving or moving to another task, and I will feel it in my hips and my
Mm.
stomach right away. Boom, you can just feel the swelling
Yeah.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, can't eat that.
Yeah.
Anytime I want to try and even test things. And sometimes that happens with some pork products right now. Like, I've noticed that my body
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like pork a lot. It can handle bacon, but a very specific kind. And if I have like a pork chop or something like that, sometimes, you feel it and you're like, okay, I got to stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that swelling happens almost
Yeah.
immediately. And I know when I've had something I shouldn't, or accidentally, or kind of gone, hey, I tested the waters with this bite, and you're like, even one bite. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to me too, because it's really teaching me a lot about addiction. Because when someone has a heroin addiction or cocaine addiction or a meth addiction or fentanyl, a drug that we're like, oh, you have an addiction, they're like, stop immediately, stop this now, we need to put you in rehab,
Yeah.
right? But with our food, for some reason, there's some justification as far as why we need to do it slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just stop incorporating these things slowly. Like, tomorrow, have one less soda. And I'm like, how about we just stop the soda?
Yeah.
How about we just stop it? And, I understand not wanting that slingshot of that pain,
Yeah.
but you almost make it worse by going slowly. It's, move
Yeah.
fast, handle it, get it done, cut it off.
So there's indications for going slow or fast. And I just had an interview with Bart Kay on the podcast, and we talked a little bit about this. And he's all about slow is the only way to go in terms of easing into carnivore.
Oh.
And I said, well, here's the deal, Bart. There are times with some patients that you got to cut them off cold turkey. It's kind of like easing off heroin for some people. Getting the sugar out of the diet has to be, with some people, an overnight done. You're done. And maybe not full carnivore, but they have to remove certain things out of their diet that they're so heavily addicted to, like the sodas and the candies and whatever else that they're getting an immediate high from, in terms of simple carbohydrates, right?
Mm-hmm.
The complex carbohydrates, like I said, they're still not indicated for our health, but they kind of ease their way into the bloodstream, so you're not going to get as much of a reaction, not as much of a hit, like injecting that heroin. You feel it right away. Or snorting that Coke, for example. Well, drinking that soda or eating that candy, it is going to have that same effect, right? I got a cold turkey people. Now, in terms of cold turkeying people, you really got to be under the supervision of a doctor to do that, because you could have withdrawal, serious serious withdrawal. Sugar is a drug. It's not a food. And it is more addictive than heroin, cocaine, and all these drugs that we frown on. Yet we're eating our cakes and our cookies and drinking our soda. That is hypocrisy.
Yep.
Because the dopamine centers of the brain light up brighter for sugar than these other illicit drugs. So when you think about that, and every time you're drinking a Coke, you're getting that fix. You're getting that, getting your fix. So yes, some patients I have to cold turkey. Some patients I have to cold turkey under my supervision because their health is hanging by a thread. If they don't get that shit out of their diet, they have maybe months to live.
That's fair.
And so we have to shovel them into rehab and monitor them very closely. And there's things we have to do to offset the side effects. I don't mean side effects, but the symptoms is what I mean to say, of changing the diet so drastically. So there are situations where it is indicated. Going slow. The reason that a lot of experts in carnivore recommend going slow is because what happens is when we're consuming plant foods, every plant is toxic. There's no plant on the planet that is not toxic to the human body. None. Zero, zip, zilch. There is nothing that grows in the ground that is not toxic to the cells in the human body. So we've got, for example, we've got phytochemicals. Some people call them phytonutrients. I don't. I call them phytochemicals. We've got oxalates and we've got lectins. Those are just three of the big players. And they're in every plant, just to different varying degrees, right? So the oxalates, what they do is over time they embed crystals in every cell in our body. And that's doing damage. They're not supposed to be there. The lectins, what they do is as we consume them, they attach to the wall of our GI tract and they burrow holes in the GI tract. So they're contributing to leaky gut. And then, you need fiber in your diet is complete BS. It's complete false misinformation because as you consume fiber, we don't consume it. I'm sorry, we don't absorb it. There's no nutrients in fiber. No. Why the hell are we eating it?
Right.
Every species on the planet is very efficient with their diet. Everything they consume, they utilize, except humans, because we're all jacked up. We don't know what we should be eating. We've got, the smarts to start manufacturing foods, right? Because we have this higher intelligence, and now we're just killing ourselves with these ideas of, putting it in a box, a bag, and putting a barcode on it, and then these food manufacturing companies will say, part of a healthy diet or vitamins and minerals, complete, whatever. It's all BS.
Yeah.
It's all BS because there's nothing that you need in those foods that you can't get from fatty red meat. That's all we need. So when we're consuming these foods, we're like fiber moves through the GI tract and actually creates abrasions along the lining of our GI tract.
That makes sense.
Which is contributing to the inflammation in our gut and, the leakiness and so forth. Yes, leaky gut is a real thing.
Yes.
It's a real thing.
Oh, yes.
We measure it all the time in medicine and we treat it effectively. We don't know a lot about the microbiome, which is all the microorganisms in our gut that are either contributing to our illness or our health, right? They are cells that are separate from us. So they're not you, they're not me, they're their own entity. But evolutionarily, millions of years ago, we made an agreement with these microorganisms that we would help them if they helped us. So if you have the right balance, and I think that naturopathic medicine has more of an understanding of this than conventional medicine. Even doctors that go functional will have less knowledge about the microbiome than maybe doctors like myself, even though I do admit there's so much we don't know about it. We know about this much of it,
Right.
But what we do know is that when we see certain things on certain tests, when we do stool analysis, we can see the imbalances and we can fix it through certain prebiotic, probiotic combinations. And I work with a company that actually does this, where they'll take your stool sample and they will custom design for you a prebiotic, probiotic plan, which works beautifully. Within 6 months, my patients are not having any more problems. All things being equal, that they're on the carnivore diet. They're not drinking alcohol on the weekends, and they're not eating sugary foods once in a while. They're really strict, as we all should be. It's just that not everybody's going to do that because of the temptation out there. With the media, with get-togethers. I have this new series on my YouTube channel called Health Briefs, and and they're like little 3 to 5 minutes. One of them was 6 minutes, but they're short videos about just some pointers on a certain topic. I did one on staying healthy over the holidays. I don't remember exactly what I called it, but not letting the holidays derail your health. I think that's what I called it. And in that, I talked about when you have get-togethers during the holidays, and since we're moving into the holidays, this is good information for this video. Make sure you don't show up hungry, especially if you're carnivore, because there's all these temptations. I personally am not tempted. I can stick with my diet, and I have no problem whatsoever. In fact, when I show up at these get-togethers and these events for the holidays, it all looks like garbage to me. And I've already eaten because I know that there's probably nothing there I'll be able to find to eat anyway, or very little. But yeah, I don't need to eat more than a couple times a day anyway, being carnivore, because I'll eat. Here's what I'm doing now. And this is what's really a game changer for a lot of my patients too. I'm eating steak for my first meal. And I got this air fryer. And so what I'll do is I'll put the butter on a plate, and I don't use a microwave as a rule, but I will microwave the butter on the plate to warm up the plate and to melt the butter. Being that butter's a saturated fat, it's not going to denature it. And then I'll put it in there for about 30 to 45 seconds. So I time it just right with the air fryer. So I put I'll get these steaks that are about an inch thick, and I'll cut them 2-inch strips, and I'll put 3 of them on the air fryer. And then I've perfected the art of eating over the sink.
Because you're just everything.
I should sit down. I should be a little more civilized, and but
intentional.
yeah, but I live alone with my pets, so nobody cares. But I will stand there by my air fryer, and the butter's nice and melted on my plate, and I'll take them out one by one, salt it really good, and eat it, and then take the next one out, especially because it's colder this time of year, so your food's bound to get cold. I do like the hot plates. That's a really good way to keep your food warm in the winter too, and it doesn't go cold as you're eating it. You don't have to rush to eat it. But so I've started my day now with steak, and a good amount. I mean, it's like a good chunk. It comes to about this much, and I'm not hungry again until dinner, and I'm not even really feeling hungry. It's just like, oh yeah, maybe I should eat. I get, it's not a hunger signal like I used to get when I had carbohydrates in my diet. It's more like this, yeah, I could use some more nutrients right now. Now on days I work out, obviously I'm a little more aware of it early on. So I might have, I'm not OMAD. Maybe I will be someday. I'm down to 2 meals, maybe 3 a day. And but yeah, when I work out, I do eat within that hour some fatty red meat right after I work out. And
that's been good for you.
I load up on it. Good. Because the protein in the meat, if you eat enough of it, you get that protein bolus. And what that does is gives you a little bit, just a non-insulin spike, but just a bump of insulin to trigger the kidneys to hold on to your electrolytes. Because on the carnivore diet, it's actually insulin that creates that retention of the electrolytes through the kidneys. If we don't have any release of insulin, which you're not going to have no release, but we do need that bolus of protein to cause the insulin just to come up a little bit. And it's a bump, it's not a spike. And it will help the kidneys retain your electrolytes so you're not feeling depleted. I was having, when I first became carnivore, which has been a year now, I was having restless leg at night. And I thought I was taking the electrolytes, I was salting my food, but that really helped just increasing my protein and
just a little more on the fats, just a little bit more before your workout.
The protein. Well, after my workout, especially, that's usually when I do it. I'll eat a good amount of food right after I work out, so that seems to help. I don't have any problems now. I was waking up with that feeling in my legs, and I never had it before. So the solution wasn't introducing more carbs in my diet, which is something that some people on the internet are promoting. I say stay away from them. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. What you need is just to have that one meal of a high protein bolus to get that insulin to come up just enough to get the kidneys to retain and hold on to electrolytes. But as a carnivore, you are going to need more sodium, about 7 to 8 grams a day. So my patients that are saying, well, I should salt my food, I said, yeah, generously salt your food. You want to, don't make it taste too salty, but to taste. And I'm putting a pretty good amount of salt on my food.
Yeah, like the sea.
Yeah.
Make it taste like seawater, which I
right.
know sounds crazy because that's what they tell you to do with pasta. Is salt it until salt the water until it tastes like the sea. And I kind of used that rule of thumb when I started eating a lot of meat and beef now. It's a salt's a flavor enhancer anyway, so it just enhances the flavor of the meat or whatever it is that you're eating. And at first I was kind of like, gosh, there's so much salt, so much salt. But what I have realized is that I noticed when I don't have enough salt, I tend to cramp a lot easier. It doesn't, my body, because of my GI and my plumbing being different now, it doesn't retain as much. It doesn't hold on to much. And so I noticed that when those electrolytes do in fact go down, even though I do take electrolytes, I don't do the Element. I do a different supplement, but that adding that salt in helps. I know when I don't, and I suffer for it. For example, yesterday I didn't have enough. And I got literally stuck. I was doing a return over at Kohl's for Amazon, and I got stuck in the parking lot for 40 minutes in my car, laying there. I had to lay down flat, and I had to let the cramps go.
Oh my goodness.
And so it took me, just totally laid me low, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't live. Like, what did I? And then so I had to mentally go through, okay, I had this, I had this. I didn't have enough salt. Okay. Cause I'm like, I took my magnesium to help me sleep. I did this, I did that. I'm eating enough meat today. I don't understand what the problem is. And I'm like, oh, but I didn't salt my breakfast. And it's funny, even just that little bit changes everything about, like, I never knew how sensitive I really was. Like, I've always thought I had a sensitive GI anyway, but then to change the GI tract, and then to, like, just those little tiny changes, even just salting your food one time or mis-salting your food one time, can cause such a change where I'm like, okay, it totally inconvenienced my day. And I mean, I guess, just observational science wise, that's what I observed. That's what I experienced. Is it the truth? I want to believe that that's the truth, because it's the only thing in the diet that I changed that caused that. Normally I wouldn't have those cramps. So, but I do remember after surgery having some horrific cramps in the legs where it would lay me low. I had a cramp one time where it was so bad. I was screaming so hard, I passed out. Oh boy. And woke up like 5 or 6 minutes later with a kid looking over me going, are you okay? What's going on?
Where were you?
Should I go? Home. I was at home.
Oh.
And, I did also notice that, though, at the time I was also taking a pre-workout, which did have some very interesting sugar ingredients in it, or not electrolytes, sugar alcohols. That I've come to find that my body does not retain well. And I don't know if that had something to do with it, but yeah, it's just interesting to me how that simple little tiny change in my observation can really, really affect me. I'm like, I can't be sitting at a Kohl's parking lot with the, with my seat knocked all the way down and with the air conditioner on, or with the car running, and for 40 minutes sitting there. That's like, I'm so busy that to do that it shot my day. A hole in the head day. It was horrible. So I don't know. Lesson learned. But yeah, salting your food is extremely important. Like, I don't even use pepper anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I've come to find that that'll cause me.
It's just an herb that you don't need.